start the broadcast, and then we just got to post that before we officially start. But I think we've got.
Let me double check real quick. Matt, you're filling in for Kane today, is that correct?
That's correct.
And then Brenda, are you filling in for Mayor Camp today?
Yes.
Okay. So Wayne, just a heads up, this is who I have so far. I have Wayne Pyle, Council Member Debbie LeRae, Adam Cowie, Matt Dahl filling in for Kane Loader, Thomas Peterson from Brigham City, and it looks like Jason Roberts is also on as the alternate. Brenda Moore filling in for Mayor Camp, Robin Meekum, Clint Morris, and Todd Christensen. Have I missed anyone?
Sounds like, unless somebody's still on mute, you got everybody. Thanks, Krista. Let's go ahead and start the meeting, and I will.
Is Roger ready?
Yeah, if we could just give it one more second to make sure that YouTube link posted.
Yeah, Lexi's supposed to be posting it. I sent her the link. Kim, can you ping her?
Yeah, she's at a West Valley actually event right now, so she's working in her.
We do have a quorum now.
There, but one of employees is getting tested for COVID.
So is that go ahead then, or are we going to want to wait a minute?
Give us a minute.
Okay.
Another minute.
If I have to do it, I can sign on too.
Can we not just post a link to our Utopia YouTube account, and then it's just whatever the latest event is on there?
It looks like it's live now. I think we've got it.
Okay. All right, we're good to start then. Yeah, Lexi just sent me a message saying it's done.
Okay, great. Well, let's go ahead then. We'll make all of that our initial introductions, and welcome to everybody. It's great to see you. I know we've got a lot of good news and business to conduct and move forward with. So let's go right into item number 2, which is approval of minutes. If anybody has any questions on those or is ready to make a motion to approve them.
I can make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay. Who was the motion and who was the second? Krista, did you catch that?
Debbie LeRae was the motion, and I didn't see who the second was.
Tom Peterson with Brigham City, second.
Oh, okay. Tom, great. Thank you. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Anybody opposed? Okay. Minutes are approved. Let's go to item number 3, which is approval of resolution UT 20-04, establishing an audit committee for Utopia. Laurie, I believe this is your item.
Thank you. The Utah State Auditor recommended as part of their fraud risk assessment that each entity have a formal audit committee. I've spoken with the members of the Finance Committee. That's Jason Roberts from Brigham City, Tracy Probert from Layton, Jim Welch of West Valley City, and Brandon Nilsson of Orem. We talked about the responsibilities of the audit committee, and all of them are willing to serve on a formal audit committee. The biggest benefit in my eyes of an audit committee is that they have the opportunity to meet informally with the auditors. The auditor's report to the board is generally very short, very succinct. The audit committee has the opportunity to meet in a more informal setting with the auditors and talk about how the audit went, what other issues they might have. While it is a recommendation of the state auditor, I agree 100% that an audit committee will help us in our mitigating our risk, and I think that's all I have, unless any of you have any questions.
Questions from the board or commentary?
So
Lori, did you? Oh, go ahead, Roger.
This is Adam. So as part of
Adam.
The committee's responsibility, they're coordinating with the auditor, but it's not necessarily that the board would hear anything from the committee. Is that correct?
That's right. They are, I believe they're a liaison between the auditor and the board. The finance committee obviously can report to the board anything that they have learned or would like to talk to the board about regarding the audit. And also, when they do meet with the auditors, if they choose to, typically there's not any staff from UTOPIA involved in that, so that everybody can speak.
Laurie, is there any requirements from the state that they need credentials or have a CPA or anything like that?
No, fortunately for us, I think that all four of the people that are currently serving on the finance committee are CPAs. The recommendations is that we have government finance officials on the committee, or that they have access to someone who has a background in governmental accounting. And these four people have a very well-established background in governmental accounting.
Is there a length of service that they would be? Is this a 2-year, 5-year appointment? How do you get new members is my question.
Good question. The resolution.
I can look that up, I guess.
No, the resolution states that it will consist of no less than 4 members, but it's not specific as to how long they will serve or what the, if the terms are staggered. We don't have that specificity in here.
Is there a recommendation from the state audit about length of service, or is that just up to us?
It's up to us.
I know in Orem, our committee assignments are 3 years, and they can be up, they can do it twice, up to 6 years, and then they have to circle off, but it's whatever people want to do is fine.
I think the fact that there has been a finance committee for UTOPIA and UIA for many years, probably going back 6 or 7 years. And as finance directors come and go from the different cities, there are new members appointed, and it tends to change on its own, but we don't have any formal rules about how that's going to change. We could do that. We could, I don't know if you want to consider amending this resolution or having us look at that in the future.
I always think it's good to just at least spell it out. So sometimes it just makes sense to have some people stay on, and you don't want them all going off at the same time. So, but if you think it's automatically happening as the cities replace people, then, I don't know. That's just my concern, is there at least be a little more formalization of it.
So just adding to what Debbie had said, just for comparison, West Valley's audit committee, which has been in existence for, 10 plus years now, something like that. we do kind of the same thing, although I can't remember if it's a 2-year or a 3-year term that's rotated. And really what we end up finding in West Valley's case is because your pool of volunteers, we have some citizen representatives that sit on that, is fairly limited. Most of the time they just end up getting reappointed anyway. I don't think that is the case with the Utopia UIA situation because of exactly what Laurie and Debbie were talking about. We do have a lot of people rotating in and out. I am, however, I don't think that's a bad idea to kind of formalize it and give us a structure around that. Can you add that in fairly easily, Laurie or Roger? Some language to that effect.
Do we want to do that quickly, and do we want to do that on fly right now?
I don't think we need to. I don't think this is an urgent issue. We could delay the item and adopt it at the next meeting if you wanted to think about whether you want to stagger some terms, length of term, that sort of thing.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay. Anybody else? Or let me ask it this way. Is everybody else okay with that path forward, or have any other questions or concerns? Jason? I thought maybe Jason had a comment.
No, I'm
screen.
Yeah, no, I don't have a comment, Wayne. I'm fine if you want to put some parameters there. I will say, in the past, finding people to serve on the committee has been a challenge at times. So, but definitely we welcome on that committee any input we have from anybody who wants to be involved.
Okay, sounds good. I guess speaking of that, Jason, there is one suggestion I'd make, Laurie, which Debbie spoke to. Let's not limit the number of terms, as long as everybody else is okay with that, of those who would be willing to sit on the committee. Let's define it. I like that idea. Maybe stagger the terms, but let's not limit them.
Okay, as in reappointing someone to an additional term?
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we table this resolution UT 20-04 to our next meeting.
Very good. Thank you, Tom. We got another, or do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second that. This is Debbie.
All right, very good. Thank you, Debbie. I'm not sure if this one needs roll call or not. Krista, where are we at on that?
If we're just moving to table, I think we're okay with a voice vote.
All right, very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed with tabling the motion? Okay, we will move that item to the next board meeting. Thank you very much. Let's go on to item number 4, public hearing to consider amendments to the 2021 budget. Again, Laurie.
Thank you. We are doing a budget amendment in the UIA board meeting to recognize the proceeds from the Clearfield bond that occurred earlier this year. So I wanted to set the time and date for budget amendments for Utopia. Right now, I am not aware of any changes that we need to make, but I will be going over the budget more carefully. We'll be a little further into the year, and so I wanted to set this time and date in case we have something that we do need to talk about amending with Utopia. This is just establishing the meeting, so you will have more information on any of those proposed amendments before the December meeting.
Okay, very good. So this is more of a proactive step or item, foreseeing the fact that we usually do have some amendments by year's end, so you just like to get that ready?
Correct.
Okay, very good. Anybody have any questions or comments? Oh, and if not, could we have a motion for consideration of the resolution?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we set the date and the time for the public hearing for the Utopia fiscal year 2021 budget for December 14th.
Very good. Thank you, Tom. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
All right, very good. That's Brenda. And I think this one probably does need a roll call vote. Krista?
Debbie Luray,
Aye.
Adam Kelly, Adam Kelly.
Adam, you might have been on mute.
Oh, I can come back. Matt Dahl,
Aye.
Thomas Peterson,
Aye.
Brenda Moore,
Aye.
Robin Mika,
Aye.
Clint Morris,
Aye.
Todd Christensen,
Aye.
Wayne Pyle,
Aye.
and Adam Kelly.
Are you there, Adam, or did we drop you?
Even regardless of his vote, it's still a quorum vote there.
Okay. Well, we will consider that motion passed then and establish where Adam's status is on that one later on. And with that, let's move to item number 5, Utopia Financial Update. Also, Lori.
Thank you. This chart shows the recurring revenue for both entities combined. You'll see that the top line is getting closer to the $2.5 million per month mark. We're currently at 2.3 million. Utopia accounts for a little over $500,000 per month. And we continue to grow at the rate of, I know it's been about 900. I don't know if we've heard a report yet for September, but we continue to grow at the rate of about 900 new subscribers per month. However, most of those are going to UIA. Utopia is holding its own. And I've also attached the UIA revenue versus bond obligation. I know that as the Utopia board, you are interested in this. Again, the UIA revenue is about $1.7 million per month. This dotted red line is the current cumulative monthly debt service. So there's a pretty healthy gap between the monthly debt service and our revenue, and that gap continues to grow. I have the Clearfield bond will bring that up to, it adds about $60,000 a month to that. I don't know why that didn't show up, but we still have a pretty decent gap, good debt service coverage. And then I also have just a quick look at our year-to-date performance compared to the budget for Utopia. Our revenues thus far through September 30th from access fees, that's lease and service provider revenue, we're at 1.8 million. The budget is about 7 million, so we are at 26% of budget. Installation revenue, we have budgeted $2,500 and we have already collected $2,100. The deferred payments from UIA, this is just shifting money from the deferred revenue account. It's not actual cash. That IRU contract has been paid in full by UIA, so this is a book-only item. The service contract agreement and the UIA management fees were at 25% of budget. This is the money that UIA pays to Utopia based on number of connections, number of addresses, provisioning for new accounts, and we are at 25% there. Miscellaneous revenue, 5% of the budget. I think probably interest revenue is a large part of the miscellaneous revenue. I also know the other piece of miscellaneous revenue, we are required to budget a certain percentage of our expenditures toward our fund deficit. That amount is about $400,000. So we have included in miscellaneous income a contribution for fund balance for that. It's kind of an in and out journal entry. And again, it's book only. We don't expect anyone to be handing us $400,000 to cover that fund balance deficit. So overall, our total revenues are $3.4 million for the first 3 months of fiscal year 2021. We're 25% of the way toward our projections of $13.9 million. On expenditures, wages and benefits, the budget is $8.6 million. We've currently expended 22% of that budget, 17% of the marketing budget. About 40% of the operations budget. There's an issue here. We have a misposting to licenses and insurance. There's about what is it? $100,000 posted for software licenses for Alcatel, which went to licenses, actually needs to go down here into the software budget. So we are a little bit ahead of budget on that one. However, a lot of these costs are licensing that is paid early in the year, so it's just a little bit top heavy. I don't have major concerns about any of the line items. However, if we do need to make budget amendments, we will be talking about those in the December meeting.
Thanks, Lori. Hey, a quick question there. So I had noticed the operations number there at 40% and the field maintenance number about 34%. Overall, yeah, we're well within the time frame we should be budget-wise. So again, just reiterating, you don't see any issues long-term at the end of the year or through the year on those items?
No, I don't. In fact, total expenditures, if you scroll down, 21% of budget. Currently, right now, before any debt service, we have revenues over expenditures of $533,000. So we're doing fine.
All right, very good. Anything further, Lori?
Not unless you have any questions.
Questions from the board? Okay, well, if there are no questions from the board, let's go on to our next agenda item, which is the network update from Roger.
All right. Well, we got some fun stuff to update you on today. We had a meeting this morning. The UIA board meeting was at 8:30 this morning, and we had a very big agenda item on that meeting, and that was for the approval of parameters resolution for the next UIA bond. And so we don't like debt and bonds and things, but when we have a good project for those, then they can be exciting, because the project at hand is essentially the second phase of the build out of the original UTOPIA and UIA cities. This is the final area. You know, we had different versions of this plan where we had a 5-year plan to build it all out with 3 bonds. We did take on a little bit more on that first one and kind of got to halfway done. And so this is really just 2 of 2 is the way we're planning on this. This is the next bond to finish out all the remaining areas, and that's going to be the remaining areas in Orem, West Valley City, Midvale, and Murray are the areas that we still have left to do in the UIA UTOPIA cities. This was an action at the UIA side of things. This is, you know, that's where we have the financing for the build out of the network to complete this project out. So it was a UIA item, but not, it's not that we don't care at UTOPIA, we care a lot. So that's what we figured we'll want to have an update on that. So let me share, let's see here. Here's the bond parameter summary that we shared in that meeting. This was a memo prepared by Laura Lewis and LYRB, there's Lewis Young. Robertson Birmingham, I can't remember all the acronym pieces. But this was basically going over the thing. There's a number of reasons why we're doing this and the timing. We had just finished a surveillance rating with Fitch Ratings. And so that was a big deal because it's not a lot of fun, especially for Laura, to go through all of that. But it was an opportunity to have them come back and look at our bond rating for the previous bond and make sure everything was still good. And then they also asked us to include modeling for having this new bond in there. And if we would be in a good position, if everything looked good, you know, it's not often that you would get an opportunity for any sort of, you know, head nod or early indicator that you'd be in a good position for a future rating. But this was about as good as we could hope for in the sense that with that new debt, knowing that we would take on that new debt, they maintained the rating of a BBB minus for this would be UIA debt that's not backstopped by cities. So keep in mind, you know, if we had cities come back with a dollar for dollar type of a guarantee, it would be a better rating. But we're in a really good position with UIA. Just use our revenue growth as the backstop for new debt. So even taking that account into this new debt, they still were giving us that rating of BBB minus, but even in addition to that, it was an outlook of being stable. And so sometimes it's like, yeah, things are good now, but maybe there's some fluctuation or something like that. But to say that we were stable puts us in an excellent position to go to market, to get these funds, to get go in with confidence of a rating. You know, of course, we never know exactly where things will land, but we're going in with probably better than ever confidence being able to get that rating. There's some flexibility in the parameters that were approved, but we're basically going into this saying this is a $45 million construction of the build out, but we have to put in some additional things in there in headroom to take into you know, the financing costs or issuance costs. There's also capitalized interest period. We're planning on 2 years, but we approved 3 years up to, in case if that happens to be what works out better in the financing. But we're going into it with the intention of doing 2 years capitalized interest. The par amount, maximum par amount of $57 million, but again, we're planning to come in lower than that. This is just to give flexibility in things. The parameters set a maximum interest rate of 6%. We don't think we'll be there, but you know, if the investors are coming in saying, hey, we want a higher rate, but we would pay a lot of premiums, you know, that we give ourselves some flexibility there. But we're expecting to come in with more of a maximum coupon of 4% and kind of come out of that process with a true interest cost of 3.5% or 3.6%, which with the coupon, you know, would be very good still. So we're very excited. You know, it's a good thing interest rates are where they are. It means that we have the ability to take that money and build networks and pay that debt with especially good terms. And so we've kind of moved the timing of things up. We had been initially planned on doing this later. We are building faster than ever. We've had more take rate than we expected. More take rate means more installations. More installations mean we have to spend more money to pay for those installations. So the spend has been a little bit ahead of schedule, but fortunately the revenue has been ahead of schedule or ahead of forecast. So it's a good problem to have, and we say, well, what do we do about this problem? That means we need the money a little sooner for the next phase, and we seem to be in a very good position to do that. So we had a discussion about this in the UIA board meeting, and it went very well. I think everybody's excited because this really does represent the finish line, you know, for what these cities have been through for many, many years, trying to get this network built out and getting this available to everyone in their communities. This is that project, and we'll put that in place. There'll probably be some future UIA bonds to pay for future installations. The build out of the network is a little bit of a moving target because cities continue to build new homes and expand and annex areas and things like that. So there'll probably be some future bonds that are smaller under this sort of structure. And then there'll probably be some bigger ones for new city partnerships if they come in and guarantee their own projects. But as far as Utopia and UIA cities are concerned, this is really the last to get significantly built out, and that's an exciting time. And we have our schedules posted publicly as far as when areas will be completed. It's a very conservative schedule, so as we get closer and finalize this financing, we'll be able to pull some of those dates in to what we think is more realistic, because we are building very fast. We said it was kind of it was kind of trivial information, but we think it's interesting. But last week we had our report from our contractors. We track all of this stuff and what's getting put in the ground. And as we build out on our different projects, we have more parallel projects going on now than we've ever had. But the overall drilling and putting in conduit in the ground progress hits. It was about 11 miles in 1 week of new conduit installation. And so I think we had fallen closer to 10 miles the week before, and then it hit 11 miles. Puts us at a pace of about 45 miles of new construction going on in a month, which is an incredible pace, and it puts us in a great position to get this thing built out. And so this bond will be to do that. We set a date for the public hearing for December 14th, and that'll be kind of the next step in that. So we'd expect to close on that bond in January, February timeframe. Is that accurate? I'm trying to make sure I've got all the details right. Anyways, does anyone have any questions about that? It's a lot of information, a lot going on. It was approved. I guess that's an important note. So we had the votes to approve the parameters resolution. So it's exciting time again. But yeah, any questions?
So in Orem, would this speed up basically by next spring, we would have most of our areas started? Kind of give me an idea how quick this is moving us from our original plan. That's my question, I guess, for you.
Yeah, maybe I'll defer to Aaron on that for engineering and construction. For started, for sure, but as far as completed, that's probably the more important metric.
Yeah,
Aaron, you have thoughts there?
I'd have to get an exact time of when we think Orem is going to be complete, but we feel that it's going to be pretty quick because we got a good jump on phase one for Orem and built out a lot of the tougher areas where there was a lot of rock and things like that. So
when you have a good idea, I mean, within 6 months or whatever, I mean, I won't hold you to it, but it's good for me to kind of give my council an idea of the overall build out. And I'm sure other cities and other councils would want to know the same. So just give me your best guess based on the new funding.
We're figuring on, this was a 3-year plan. So phase one was a 1.5 years. And we have about another 1.5 years to complete all of the Utopia cities. So if that kind of helps you, I can look up the specific schedule if you give me a minute, or I can email it to you as well.
Just email to me separately. But it's good. I mean, I get people who tell me, "Oh, you're in my neighborhood," and so that's really good. So I appreciate the work that's going on in my city.
We hope that it's going well and that there hasn't been too many complaints that the city has had to handle. We try to address those things as quickly as possible.
A few people have been upset with some landscaping that's been disturbed or yada yada. That's mostly what I get.
Okay, and it's hard to not disturb landscaping if it's in the easement. That's a challenge for us.
And make sure that they just call in. We hear a lot of complaints online, and we see them because we follow a lot of Facebook groups, and they don't call in, so they just complain. If they call in, we will always go out and examine and repair.
What's the number to have them call in if you can get that to me?
Yeah, it is 801-613-3880. Or this is also, they can just send an email to support@utopiafiber.com.
What was the middle number? 61 something?
613-3880.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
and some cities may feel that the number of complaints might be a gauge of the amount of construction we're doing. We don't like to look at it that way. We want to eliminate all complaints, but there's some truth to that, is that as we have increased the pace of construction, the amount that's going on, you know, obviously that will impact more people. You know, we're sensitive to the idea. It's like we want to make sure that, you know, we're going to cause complaints as we're building in areas, but to make sure that it's not disproportionate, that there's more complaints relative to the amount of construction that's going on. As we've looked at things, it's like, yeah, the number of complaints has gone up, but so has the quantity of construction going on. If you feel like it's out of whack or there's anything appropriate, in fact, any complaint you get at all, we do want those. We follow up every single one and go back and make sure that we, you know, fix the grass and sprinklers and things like that. But when things get missed and it's like somebody's complaining, hey, my sprinkler got broken, we can't fix it if we don't know about it. And so if those complaints are not going where they should be and landing with the city or someone else, you know, please send those to us so we can follow through with them.
Thank you.
Other board members have
questions? That's on the bond. Sorry, any other questions on the bond, or Wayne, did you have anything you want to bring up?
I did have two
other
questions.
network update.
Yeah, I did have two questions, but I wanted to ask same thing you did, Roger. Anybody else on the board have questions on the bond? If not, or if you're thinking about them, the two questions I had, Roger, were first off on the subscriber, new subscriber sales. You know, I know the 900 a month is way above what we were expecting before COVID hit, for example. Do we have any better feel or expectation now along where we think that will continue to go, whether we think that's going to stop? Are we seeing that now as being pretty sustainable just because of the change in environment? What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yes and no. So some of it's coronavirus related, right? We have what we call the Corona bump, you know, which was this month where we had 1,100 new signups, which was incredible. Since that time, we've wondered, you know, hey, is this going to come back down? Because before all of this, you know, we remember getting 200 to 300 or so, you know, sales a month. It got up to 400.
We were getting like 500. You were just
yeah. So, but to go from where we were up to that 1,100 number was incredible. But it hasn't fallen back down. You know, we were saying, okay, we're gonna be back to normal. If you switched your internet because you're working remotely, or you switched because of school, you probably have already made that switch by this time, right? We're well into this situation. And yet the numbers have stayed strong, and they haven't stayed at the 1,100 a month number, but they've stayed strong at the 900 plus a month level. And so there's a combination of things. I think there still is more people using their home connections than is typical, but we have increased the pace of the build out of the network. And so there are more areas able to sign up that are new to the network than we've ever had in the past. And that's going to continue as the pace of construction continues as well. But there's a lot going on. I mean, I think it's for this reason and this reason and this reason that we are seeing these 900 plus sales. And the only one that would potentially go away out of any of those is that things go back to normal as it relates to coronavirus. But we're still confident in maintaining higher numbers. And the bond forecasting, actually, we feel went in pretty conservatively by forecasting about 700 new customers coming on a month, even though we're nowhere near that. You know, we're still maintaining much higher than that month over month. So, you know, that may be an overly conservative forecast for the bonds and all of that. But we got to be that way with the bonds. We can't go in there overly optimistic. That could cause us some trouble. So it's a good place to be. Tim, do you have any, I mean, marketing and sales is your area. Do you want to talk about any of your ideas and what you're seeing?
I support what you said, Roger. I believe it's correct. And we are just doing some creative marketing and new ideas and gonna be putting some fresh content out there redesigning the website. But there's a lot of efforts. We could go into the details of what marketing efforts we're doing, but I personally don't want it to go back to the 500 a month. I hope that we stay near 1,000, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure we at least get close to staying close to where we are today.
Great. I appreciate that. That has some bearing on my next question, which is really more to the dollars on the bond. So as I look at, and for the other board members, I'm trying to figure out a way all of us can sort of see the financial implications of the new bond and the 2 iterations of the 45-ish 50 million, as opposed to the 3 of 30 or 33 or whatever it would have been under the old plan. And I'm looking at the UIA revenue versus bond obligation chart, and Roger and Laurie, I was hoping maybe you could confirm or correct for me here. So currently we're around 1.1 million in bond obligation. And if I look at that 2019 bond, it looks like we're, roughly 350,000 a month, which might be a little more, a little less than what we actually are at. But given what you had said on the bond, seems like around 350 a month would be what our new incurred obligation is, which along with the Clearfield line, which is still missing, still puts us somewhere around 1.45 or 1.5 million in debt obligation versus the 1.7-ish I'm looking at on the recurring revenue, which doesn't include the Utopia revenue. So if I'm right, we should still be somewhere around, 800-ish thousand a year. And I'm just kind of pulling that off of the chart here. Could you tell me what that gap would be between the debt obligation and the recurring revenue obligation, just from a projected standpoint, Laurie?
I don't have those numbers in front of me. I think one way to point it out is if you look at that gap between the 1.4 million and the current revenue in September, if you compare that to when we issued the 2019 debt back in November of 2019, is similar. So
right. Yeah,
we'll be bringing that cumulative debt up to about the 1.4 million, and then our revenues are actually projected to grow a little. The line is a little steeper than it was back in November of 2019. I do have that information I can get to you.
Hey, appreciate that, Laurie. Yeah, so really, you kind of got exactly what I was asking, which was, given where we're at with the debt obligation, given where we're at with the recurring revenue, even if our revenue went flat, much less with growth, we're still well within what our revenue production is right now. That's a safe assumption, right?
Exactly.
Even the new bond.
Yes, you're correct.
All right. So
Yeah,
if we were able
nice.
to do that and maintain some level of 900 or 1,000 new customers a month, or even 700, which the bond projects, we should be fine from a financial standpoint.
Yes.
Yeah, if we were contemplating a $50 million bond every year and a half, we'd probably be sweating it, saying, hey, we're treading water here, as far as like, we're taking on new debt, but also taking on new obligation, or bringing in new revenues and keeping that gap the same. But the reality is we're expanding the network and the available customers we can get, and that will support us. This next $50 million investment plus the previous one, that will support new connections for many, many, many years. So we'll have that growth of, here comes 700 to 900 customers month over month over month over month. And then that gap becomes enormous. And that's
right.
where we really get to turn the focus of Utopia and UIA towards debt relief. Because now we're not trying to maximize that gap for supporting the next bond. We're trying to maximize that gap for debt relief. So that'll be a really exciting time. We expect to come back and, we've got to figure out all the mechanics of how to offset expense at Utopia versus bring money, and how to do that in a way that's appropriate between the two organizations as different legal entities. But we're certainly be in a good position to do that from a financial perspective.
It's great news. Anybody else on the board? Did that engender any other questions or comments? Oh, I did want to make one comment also. Adam, I have to leave at 11 o'clock the meeting. If the meeting proceeds past that, can you take over for me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I forgot to ask you earlier, but we got on the call here. Anyway, thank you, Adam. Okay, back to Roger.
Hey, Wayne, I had one question on that.
Oh, go ahead, Todd.
Ken, this is for you, really. So how does the growth that we're fighting right now, or we're experiencing, how is the battle of misinformation with our big critics? Are you still seeing a lot of misinformation going around about what Utopia really is and what the connections are and what the costs are that's being put out by the big incumbents?
So I had a question for Kim, or me? I'll answer it, I guess. She doesn't look like she's about to answer. So from the value of the network, I mean, things have only gotten better. You know, the other options out there have only fallen further behind demand, and the perception of this being a critical service is stronger now than it ever has been. So, you know, we used to be talking about this network, you know, I hate to say this, but we used to be talking about downloading your email faster, right? I mean, when you go back to 2004, it was, you know how long it takes to download email attachments with your dial-up or whatever, you know, but we need fiber to make that work better. And that was true, but we knew there was other applications coming, and there'd be critical needs from the cities themselves and all that. And then over time it became, well, now we have everybody cutting the cable, and you have all these great video streaming platforms like Netflix and Hulu and things like that. And that really drove a lot of need for better connectivity. And so, you know, that was the argument, is get off of your overpriced garbage internet because you can't benefit from these great new entertainment, you know, services and things like that. Well, now since then, it's completely changed. You know, now it's, you've got to have this sort of connectivity for education, for working remotely, for telehealth purposes, and that's not just a need. You know, people are at an enormous disadvantage if they do not have decent broadband at their homes. And so, I mean, we're seeing it where people are relocating from a city that doesn't have good broadband to one that does, because it's like, my kids are doing their school, and this is the most important thing to me, is that we have to function. And so, I mean, this is, we're way past, you know, Netflix as far as needing, you know, fiber for that. This has become such a critical need. And we see, it's amazing some of the feedback we get from people, because people are saying that this is, you know, this is the most important thing our city's ever done for us. And I know it isn't. We got roads and we have other critical utilities, but it is in that category, right? And it hasn't always been perceived that way. So as we look at those competitive options, you know, of DSL or wireless or cable, you know, we're in a stronger position than we ever have, because those services, it's not just the speeds and capacity, but it's also the reliability. We've done very, very well from a reliability perspective, and fiber does make that easier. You know, it is a robust architecture. And so, yeah, to your question, is the perception of us relative to incumbents, do we see the incumbents bad-mouthing us or coming up with ways to make their products seem better or relevant? I'm just not seeing it. Fiber blows everything out of the water, and you know, we're just fortunate that's where we had designed this to go, and it supports all of the current needs, it supports all the future needs, and everybody else is scrambling to figure out how to squeeze more, you know, lemonade out of that lemon that called the cable networks. They just can't seem to get anything else out of them. So things are going really, really well from a technology and future trend perspective.
Roger.
I just thought the reason I brought it up is each time there's kind of these step growth expansions and bonding with Utopia or UIA, a lot of the incumbents really seem to come out of the woodwork saying, you know, you got Taxpayer Association or everything else. They start spreading all this misinformation everywhere, and I just wondered if that was going to recur, if that's going to come again, or they finally realize, hey, a gig network is a gig network, we can't touch it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody believes them anymore, right? They've lost all credibility.
We've drawn their attention with the small modular reactors in Brigham City, so thank you. Thank you is an order from you guys. We're taking the heat from them right now.
Hey, Roger. I just wanted to answer Debbie's question. I found the information. Debbie, there's in phase 2, there's 5 footprints left in Orem, roughly 600 homes. And we have that scheduled out till July of 2021. And the main reason why is some of those haven't been built yet. And the other thing is that there's some HOAs that are still kind of under contract. So this is an FYI.
Thank you. That's helpful.
The next part of my update I want to share just quickly is that I've been emailing out a subscriber report. And so I'm hoping everybody is getting those. If you're not, please let me know and I'll make sure my emails get out to you. But my subscriber report should be coming up on the share. My computer's being weird, so I can't actually see it. Oops, I accidentally closed it. But anyways, subscriber report, it's giving a lot more detail. We keep adding more and more detail to that subscriber report that provides the take rates collectively, the number of homes we're passing. You can see those charts go. The availability basically represents where we have the network available to. So that's when we complete build, it's tested, and people can get service. And that availability has grown significantly. And even cities like Brigham City, for example, it's been built out substantially, is what we would call that, for many years. There's still a lot of areas in the more rural parts of town, and there's new developments going on. And so we continue to make investment to build networks in those areas and expand that. So we're never really done, I guess would be my point. And so across all the cities, we continue to have more and more addresses of availability and construction happening as we grow, in addition to the new footprint areas that we build. And then you've got, very granular details there as far as how many customers you've got coming onto the system and what our take rates are in all the different areas. And if you scroll to the future pages, you've got a report on a city-specific basis where you can drill into that detail just for your city. And so that's a resource to you as board members to take to your councils to say, hey, there's a lot of progress being made here. So not only is the network being built, but even in a place you might think it's done, we're continuing to grow and expand that. And across the board, we're seeing more and more customers and higher take rates. The only exception to that is when we go, release a big new area that has 0 customers, then that pushes our take rate down. But the reality is the subscribers continue to grow, and over time, those new areas get those same levels of take rate, and things are going really well. So if there's any feedback on that report, other data that you want to see, please let me know. And we're trying to be consistent with sending those out. So that way we don't have to go into all the details in the board meetings, but that you actually have that in hand and available to you whenever you want it.
Great report and great things happening. Love to hear the progress. Roger, is there anything else on the agenda or anybody from the board that would like to ask any questions on the network status, operational update? If not, I think we're at the item on our agenda for adjourning. Last chance for anybody to bring anything up. Okay, if not, great to see you all. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, thank you, Tom. And second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. I know we don't really formally need it, but anyway, appreciate that. And all in favor of adjourning the meeting until next time. Aye?
Aye.
Okay, thank you all for attending. Thanks, Roger, Kim, Aaron, everybody on the staff, Krista, and we will see you all next time.